Okay, I'm gonna show you how to trim. Trimming's how you go from something like this with this rough bottom. You always gotta trim what you do on pottery wheels to something like this, where you have a nice base, it has a foot rim, it helps it so your project can lay flat, okay? One thing you have to be mindful of with trimming is you don't wanna accidentally trim a hole in the bottom because then it becomes a planter, so you always wanna know how thick your base is. Specifically, I'm showing you how to trim bone-dry clay. This is something that was made quite a while ago, probably like 6 months ago. And the base is pretty thick. If I feel it with my fingers, it's pretty thick. Another thing to look for when you're trimming, it's easier to trim if the top of it is flat. So first thing I need to do is this won't stick in its bone-dry state and I have to soak it in water. So a lot of times, if I can fit it in the cup at my desk, I will, because it's easier. You usually want to keep hold of it. I'm gonna soak it for 30 seconds. So I'm gonna sit here and count to 30. You don't want to over soak it because if you do, then it'll kind of fall apart. So don't do that. But if you do, it's okay. I have broken many things. Whenever I'm trimming something, for example, if I was doing the bowl thing, I always make at least 2 versions of what I want because it's really common, especially when you first learn trimming, to break it. Okay, so it's been 30 seconds. I'm shaking off all the extra water on here. I'm shaking it off. Move this cup thing. I'm gonna put it in the middle of my pottery wheel here. I'm gonna dry that off a minute. I'm gonna use these circles to try to help me put it in the middle, as close to the middle as I can. I'm gonna hold it up and barely, I'm looking at the circles underneath. And a lot of times when I put it on here, I try to like scoot it just a little bit. Okay, then I need to use some clay. You don't want this clay to be sticky, you just want good plastic clay. You break it into 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With these, you roll them into spheres. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and here's 4. Okay, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hold this in the middle here. I'm gonna put these on either side. So I'm gonna put it, what I'm doing is pressing down at an angle like this. Not straight up and down, not straight in, just at a 45-degree angle. So I'm gonna go like this and go 45 degrees in. Do one on the other side, 45 degrees in. Go on this side, 45 degrees in. And this side, 45 degrees in. Notice that clay is not smoothed in at all. That's really important. Okay, tools you're gonna need for trimming. When it's bone dry, you need a container of water right here. If it's bone dry, you'll need a sponge. Okay, you're gonna need a ribbon tool, a pencil is really helpful, or a needle tool, a loop tool, and a rasp. The rasp are hanging up by the sinks. Okay. So to start with, I'm gonna get the basic rough edge. It's like a rough sanding kind of. So I'm gonna turn this on. I want it to like a medium or a medium slow. I'm gonna hold the top of this with my hand and I'm gonna hold my thumb on this because I'm trying to hold it down and give myself a sturdy base. I'm just trying to get these edges off. One of the things I'm doing because it's so dry is I'm gonna take my sponge and I'm just going to get the top of it wet. Okay, so I hold this in on the side. Then right here, I'm just gonna go flat from the outside. I'm just trying to get like big bumps off. It's not a perfect thing at this point. I'm just getting major bumps off, okay? So it's already looking a lot better, but I still have a ways to go if I want it to look like that. Okay, next thing that I do is I need to mark off how I want to trim it and make it look and make sure that this is in the center. So the way that I do that, put this on here. I use a pencil. I usually do it from the side like this and I hold it with 2 hands like this until it is like all the way in, okay? So I go like this and I hold it on here. Okay, I can also do it on the top right here. I just choose a spot and I hold in the exact same spot and I just press it down. Okay, so this looks pretty centered here. If I look at the sides where I drew it, there's one side where it marked, which is right here. So I'm just gonna nudge it just the tiniest bit. Okay, I just nudged it the tiniest bit. We'll see how it looks. I don't usually get it on so fast, but sometimes I do. Okay, so I just wiped off the pencil marks. So that's in the middle. It's ready to go. Now what I'm gonna do is decide how I want my foot rim to work, which is the bottom. I think I'm going to put a line here, and then I think I'm gonna do a line here. And then I'm doing this to show you. I usually only draw 2 lines, or I don't draw them at all. I'm gonna cut off this area, and then I'm also gonna trim off this outside area here. So let's go ahead and do that. I go for a loop tool. I want to make sure my tool is sharp, so I feel it. It feels pretty sharp. Again, I brace my hand on top. I try to hold my hands together, so I'm always braced and steady. And I'm going to put it on here. So I'm just going all the way to that line I drew. If it starts to get squeaky, it means add more water. Okay, add more water. Again, I'm not trying to get puddles of water on there, I'm just getting a little bit wet. At this point, sometimes it depends how you want your base. If you want it to be a smooth transition, or if you want it to like step down. I'm gonna make mine step down, which means I'm pushing straight down here. This one has a pretty thick base. Oh, and this is one reason why I don't like using this tool, because I tend to mess it up like that. Oh, we're getting loose. I don't know if you can tell. So I'm gonna tighten it back with these. Again, that's something that happens when it's bone dry. When it's not bone dry, that doesn't usually happen. I knocked it off centered a little bit, which is super frustrating. Let's see where it's off centered. So it's rubbing right here. Where it hits my finger, it's rubbing, so I'm gonna shove it this way, just the tiniest bit, okay? That'll help me again on there. Actually, I'm gonna recenter it because I knocked it off. Okay. It's right here. Okay, had to recenter it a little bit. Okay, that's much better. Go like this. I'm gonna use this little one, the ribbon tool, because I can do a lot better with detail work with this. It's easier for me to stay right on. If you can tell, I'm like pressing down on there. And here. Go in here, here, go down there. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do, so I'll stop it here. So now I've got the outside done, but I need to do the inside part. So the way I do that, I go back to here. I'm gonna use this ribbon tool. I'm gonna go at a 45-degree angle like that. So it's kind of up. And I'm just gonna hold the corner of it. I move it around till I get like a good spot where it's carving it off. And then I go in to the middle like this, kind of slowly. And then out. Okay, it's getting that there. Some people like to use, let me get more water on there. Some people like to use their loop tool. I tend to mess up with the loop tool, but my loop tool is definitely sharper and it can do a bigger area. Getting that little circle part with the loop tool is a bit hard for me. Okay. And there it is. I'm gonna do it with this guy again because I do better at getting the middle when I have a smaller tool. Okay. There's the base. Sometimes I like tap the bottom if it's like bending, then I'm like, oh, it's too thin. I happen to know that this base is fairly thick, so I can do that. There we go. It's done. If you want to, you can trim the other side too, like here, which a lot of students do, and which I do sometimes. I'm just going to look at this and look at the circles, my base. If I get this wet, if it's wet and I get it like slippy like this, I can actually just stick it right on my wheel. I try to use the circles on the bottom to get it right where I want it, in the middle. And I kind of go like this until it sticks. Then these guys, I'm going to roll these up again. Put those in the sides. They're in there. Okay. At this point, I mean, I can go like this. I can tell that it's a bit off. Again, if I use this pencil and I go into the side and then I stop it, wherever it rubs it, which it drew a pencil mark right here on the side, I'm gonna scoot it away from that point just a little bit. Okay, there we go here. Let's go again. It's a lot better. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for my purposes. And honestly, just doing this with a sponge is getting it really nice and smooth. Sometimes you can use sandpaper, which some people like to do. Sometimes I'll use a loop tool. It's starting to like kind of come off centered. So I'm just being really, really careful. So I just did that. Then I'm going to go like this, wipe out those edges. I'm gonna take this off. Anyways, there it is. Any little marks I'm gonna rub off, or I'm gonna sand off. And that's trimming something that's bone dry. And I can use a noodle tool or something, and I usually write my name on the side here. And I always like to write the year because I like to know when I make stuff. So that's trimming something that's bone dry.